Hello, all, and welcome to the Power to the Pinky podcast with Taylor Marbury. Today, we're going to start a series of episodes about one of my favorite keys, usually the first key that we all learn, which is the key of C major. All right, so we're going to do a deep dive on many things relating to this key and get you guys really comfortable playing the scales in this key, the chords in this key, writing songs in this key. Get excited and buckle in. So we have entered the land of C major. Why is this the magical land where we want to reside? Because there are no sharps and there are no flats, which is beautiful. If you look at a key signature in a piece of music, you will see nothing there. You will see nothing there. Ha. One bad joke allowed. That's it. Just one. Okay. So there are no sharps and there are no flats, which is beautiful. So let's talk about how would we go about the sequence and the scale structure of a C major scale. So there's a silly saying you can use. I love silly sayings. There's tons of them in music and specifically guitar. Willie was here when Willie was here. Now you're like, why are you speaking gibberish now, right? I'm like, I promise there's a meaning behind this. So the C major scale and major scales in general follow the same pattern in the distance between the notes. So again, Willie was here when Willie was here. The W, the Willie, is a whole step. The H, here, is a half step, okay? So we're saying whole, half, whole, half. Why does that sound like a tongue twister? Whole, half, whole, half. Willie was here when Willie was here. So if we go through the C major scale, which we will here in a second, we will see, there it is again, we will notice, there we go, better word, that the distance between the notes matches that, all right? So we have that. By the way, if anybody's ever taken piano lessons or dabbled on the piano, we are doing the equivalent of playing all of the white keys from C to C. All right. And you're just going up your musical alphabet starting at C. So you go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Literally no black keys on there. All right. So all white keys. So each major scale has different degrees. All right. By the way, we will go through all of these again and again. Don't feel like you have to have these down or memorized. Some just food for thought. I want to plant seeds in your guys' brains. All right. So when we're walking through the scale, the root note is what we call the tonic, okay? Like gin and tonic, the tonic, okay? That's our root note. In this case, it's C, all right? So that's the one, okay? The one is the tonic. The two is the supertonic, okay? So we have the one, tonic, two, supertonic, all right? The three is the mediant, okay? So we have tonic, supertonic, mediant. Okay, so far so good. The subdominant is the 4, all right? So I'm kind of going through that slowly. The 5, this is one I would store in your brain, is the dominant. That's very, very important, okay? So tonic and dominant, probably most important out of those so far, okay? So again, the 1 is the tonic, 2 is the supertonic, 3 is the mediant, 4 is the subdominant, 5 is the dominant, 6 is the submediant, okay? And another important one here is the leading tone. That's the 7. In this case, it's the note B, all right? And we land back at the octave there, aka back at our tonic note, which is C. All right, so again, let's kind of go through that slowly but surely here. So we're going to play a C major scale in open position, all right? So I'm starting on my A string at the 3rd fret, okay? That note is C. There's my C. There's my 1. There's my tonic, okay? Here comes my supertonic, which is D. That's the next string down open. I'm going to grab E. That's the 3rd, okay? Here's F. There's the 3rd fret. So E was the 2nd fret. Let me be more clear. E was the 2nd fret. F is the 3rd fret, but E is the 3rd note of the scale. So C, D, E, F. Here comes G. There's your dominant. Just the open string is perfect for now. We're going to play A. Okay, that's the 6th note of the scale. Okay, the submedium. We've got our leading tone, which is B, and we land back at C, and I'm playing a C over G chord just because I like the way that sounds, all right? So if we go through the different distances between these notes, let's see if Willie was here when Willie was here tracks. So again, we said whole step, so C to D. And if it's easier to visualize a piano on here, C to D, that's definitely a whole step, right? So there's Willie, and then here's was, D to E, there's another whole step. Oh, here, E, F. Well, you're like, wait a second, how does that work, E to F? Well, that's one of our naturally occurring half steps. That's like if you look on the piano, there's no black key between E and F and B to C, right? So again, we have our Willie, there's C to D, was, D, E, here, E, F. Okay, when, so that we need another whole step. We're going to go F to G. Okay, that works, right? G to A, another whole step, right? A to B, one more whole step. And then here again would be the half step, B to C. And again, that's our naturally occurring half steps. Okay? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Willie was here when Willie was here. Don't forget it. So that brings me to my next point. Let's talk about the circle of fifths. Now, you were talking to somebody that did not learn the circle of fifths till like 10 years into being a musician. I've heard of it. I knew what it was. And I looked at it and I'd seen it before, but I did not understand its significance. Well, the cool thing about C is it sits right at 12 o'clock, okay? And it is kind of just in the middle of everything going on there, all right? Some of them you'll even see all the chords that relate to it, which we'll talk about soon, okay? And some of them, like you always, whenever you go to the right, you're going to add sharps. Whenever you go to the left, you're going to add flats. We will get to that. Don't worry. If you're like, I don't even know what the circle of fifths is, guess what? That's okay. We're going to dive into it. All right. So we have our C major, and C major sits at the top there without any sharps and flats. There's one more point I want to make here that we will get into too, which is the relative minor of C major, which is A minor. All right. And those chords just sound so good together. C major, A minor. And you may even see that written out on some of these circle of fifths diagrams. All right. So you could have a song where it says the key signature has no sharps and flats, and you might be like, that's C major. There we go. Done. But here's the weird thing. Technically, it could also be in A minor because they are related. So C is the relative major of A minor, and A minor is the relative minor of C major. All right. If it sounds like I'm just literally speaking a foreign language, don't worry. Once again, the more we go through this, the easier it will become. And these are really cool songwriting tools. They're great for analyzing chord changes, songs, all that fun stuff. All right. So what we're going to do now is for our next lesson, so the next podcast, I want you guys to try to find a C major scale anywhere on the neck. Now, not the open position we went through, but it can be a 1 octave. If you're feeling crazy, go for 2 octaves. So again, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? See if you can find that somewhere on your guitar. And again, the cool thing about the guitar is it is very much pattern based. So if there's a pattern you already know, see if you can find where the root note, the tonic of C is, okay? Maybe up the neck, maybe somewhere, you know what I mean? It could be down here, but maybe you're going to add some closed frets, no open strings. I don't know, but we will find out on our next episode. All right, that concludes episode 11, and we were going to get into some more episodes on the key of C. Happy jamming, get those C major scales. Power to the Pinky with Taylor Marbury.